celebrating all his crypto winnings right now. How much Bitcoin do you have, huh? How much Bitcoin do you have right now?
Don't even know what it is. So, zero. Zero would be the answer.
Like 95% of the world. So, yes. I understand. But one day you will have it. That's all. And you know what? I have fun with everybody I bring on and mention a little bit. Because down the line, 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, you're going to go, that crazy son of a bitch mentioned it to me, and I never got into it. So there you go, as just a little thing there. Bro, it's up 80% since January 1st. Not a lot of assets.
If you have Bitcoin, you're pretty happy about it.
Exactly. That's why I thought you were going to be happy. But I guess not. Devin White is not happy with the Bucks right now.
No, he's not.
Who's trading? There should be a shitload of people lined up to trade for Devin White. I get it. He doesn't want to go through a rebuild, but he's a young guy, actually. He's actually see this is where there's a disconnect between the player and the team. The team's like, well, wait a minute. This is a young stud that's going on his second contract. Perfect guy for our rebuild. But then here's a young guy going, yo, brother, I just went through a Super Bowl, the great times with Tom Brady. I don't want to go through a goddamn rebuild right now. I want to go off and win again somewhere. So this is kind of one of those tough situations. And I hope he doesn't have to live through 3 tags, because as you know, dude, you and I covered the league. Players can't stand playing on an option like he's doing now. Ooh.
It's true. The problem he has is if he gets the contract he wants, who can afford that? Mostly teams that aren't that good. Like mostly teams that are trying to rebuild, right? And look, I like Devin White. He's a very good player. He's not Roquan Smith. He's not Fred Warner. He's not Shaq Leonard. Like he's not going to get paid like those guys, in my opinion. I think he gets paid probably more in the range of like Edmonds, which is great. It's a great contract. It's life-altering money. But I don't know how many contenders have the money and the need for Devin White right now. I'm not saying he can't help you. He can help you. But it's more than just about that. You've got to give up draft picks. Then you've got to give up a huge contract, right? So there's a lot of it in there. I think in the end, like if he really wants out,
huge point by you that we're later in the offseason and there's a lot less space now. There aren't a lot of teams actually left, especially good teams like you just mentioned. The good teams have very little space to no space left. They just have space for their picks now at this point. That's a really good point. If anybody has space left over, you're a really bad team at this point. It's probably it.
I mean, if Devin White would like to go to the Texans, he can do it. But I mean, I don't know. Like it's now he could do what Roquan Smith did to some extent and go to a good team like Baltimore and say, I'll sign later. But then you run the risk of if you get hurt, you may not sign that deal. I mean, I think most players, 99% of them, which I'd rather sign right now, and I'll take my chances with the team. But it's hard. It's hard right now to go somewhere. I mean, look, last year, A.J. Brown got traded during the draft. And he got a 4-year, $100 million deal that night from Philly. Now, the difference was Philadelphia had a quarterback on a rookie deal, and that was a team that was not paying crazy money to Hargrave, which you then got in San Francisco. They weren't paying crazy money to a guy like a Bradbury who was on a 1-year contract. So they were kind of a unique case. But if you look around the league, you look at teams like Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, and those teams can't afford a guy like White. Dallas, same thing. So he's going to have to really thread the needle or accept playing out this year on his current deal if he wants to go to a top-tier contending type team.
You brought something up really interesting on this, because by you saying, and you're 1,000% right, that he's not at the level of the Fred Warners and those kind of guys, then if he knows that and his agent knows that, then they can push the shit out of this envelope into this 1 year, because they know Tampa's not going to tag him to then have to pay him the price of those guys and the average next year. So maybe all hell breaks loose and say, we got to now push the envelope here to get you off this team because they're not going to tag you just to keep you next year. So suck it up. You're not going to get your deal. You're going to have to play it out this year, but we're going to have to play hardball with them in order to get the hell out. Do you think any of that could be taking place?
I mean, anything's possible. I think, look, the Bucks have used the tag quite a bit under Jason Light. I mean, they used it. With Dean, they were prepared to use it. They used it, if memory serves me right, for Godwin. They were going to use it for Barrett and struck a deal at the last minute. They are a team that will do it. But that was also when they were trying to win the Super Bowl every year. Now, I don't know with White, would they do that? I mean, maybe, maybe not. It's an open question.
Is White the same player that D lineman and that receiver is? I don't think so.
Right, and I agree with you. I agree with you. He's not. So, you start looking around the league and go, all right, who's a decent team that would trade for him? All right, so you go through the list. Kansas City has linebackers. They don't need them. Jacksonville has linebackers. They don't need them. Buffalo, same thing. Oh, Buffalo could replace Edmonds, but I think they'll do it in the draft because they have no money. Cincinnati, they don't need linebackers. They kept Pratt. They have Logan Wilson. Then you start Baltimore, they're tapped out a linebacker. So you start going down the list. I mean, Cleveland, would Cleveland get involved? I'd have to look. I don't have the cap sheet right in front of me. But Cleveland on paper in terms of a need, okay, Cleveland's interesting. In the NFC, you're not going to trade him in the division. So that's out. The Niners don't need him and can't afford him. The Rams are rebuilding. Seattle actually doesn't need him because they just signed Bobby Wagner. So, and Arizona stinks. You go to the north. The Lions are interesting. They've got Rodrigo there from Hard Knocks. So he's a guy I think that they have Anzalone as well. Packers, no. I mean, the Vikings, certainly if the Vikings are tapped out money-wise. The Giants, the Giants would be interesting for him. But now they're paying a lot of money and Barkley on the tag and Jones on this new deal. Find me the team. Philly and Dallas, no. Where does it work? It's hard. It's going to be really hard for him to go somewhere we can win and get paid this year.
Kirk Cousins trade rumors. One, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see who the hell is going to be lined up to try to trade for him, but I'm reading and they talked about the Niners. Somebody mentioned the Niners. And again, that would make no sense to me because the Niners, after trading 3 first-rounders and a second-rounder, all of a sudden going to give up on him for Kirk Cousins, who's never really made the big play in his life. And that was odd. And then they also mentioned the Jets, that if the whole Rodgers thing falls through, that they would make a move for Cousins. This whole story just smells really awkward and weird, and it doesn't make sense on any of the fronts that they talked about.
Well, and also too, he signed for 1 more year. So you're not getting a guy long term. You're getting basically a rental player. If you're the 49ers, why would you do this? You have Purdy and Lance. And on top of that, by the way, not only did they trade those 3 firsts for Lance, they traded a second, a third, and a fourth for McCaffrey. They have no picks. What are they trading? What are they giving up for Cousins? Because if you're the Vikings, you better get something that you can then use to trade up in the first round and get a quarterback. Because you don't have one if you trade Cousins. You're out of luck. So, look, I know that for a fact that the Vikings have had preliminary extension talks with Cousins. So, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen. That could even mean maybe they sat down and talked and said, all right, this is the end of the line after this year. Fine. But if you're a team trading for him, you're not giving up a fortune. He's in his 30s. He's on a 1-year deal. He's won 1 playoff game in his career. He's a good player. He's not a great player. And if you're the Vikings, you need to get significant compensation back because you got to go get a quarterback. And you're sitting in the 20s right now in the draft. In the draft order, you're sitting in the 20s if you're Minnesota. So you're going to have to move way up to even to get a Levis, in the draft. So it's just, I think that I don't see the marriage of value and need for Cousins to be dealt here. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense.
And I got to tell you something. The Sam Darnold signing is still sneaky as hell. While I've never really been a big Sam Darnold guy because he's always been a turnover machine, he did play decent football down the stretch for Carolina. And damn it, dude, that San Francisco team and that head coach, they know how to make life as easy as possible for any quarterback that plays in that system. And with those weapons and that offensive line and that running game, brother, I don't even put it past them that they get Sam Darnold to play football better than I ever thought he could and better than he's ever played at this level in the NFL. Because if he could do what he did with Carolina towards the end of the season, I got to imagine that with a better coaching staff and better offense, and he's, by the way, he's out on the West Coast because that's who he is. He's a West Coast kid. Maybe this is the perfect storm for him. I still think that Sam Darnold signing might be sneaky good for them, actually. It's twisted.
Well, if you're Sam Darnold, you turn around, you hand off to Christian McCaffrey, you throw the ball 8 yards to George Kittle. Yeah, or pass it, right? You throw the ball 8 yards to George Kittle, and occasionally you find Brandon Ayuk on the outside, and either you pitch it to Deebo Samuel or you throw to him on a slant, let him run 80 yards. So it's not a bad spot. I mean, I on the other side of it, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to struggle considerably this year compared to everything we've ever seen him do, because the team's a lot worse and the coach is not as good. And look at that offense in San Francisco; it's tailor-made for limited quarterbacks. It just is. I agree. Look, Darnold, I'm not a big Sam Darnold guy, but I'm with you on that. Like, if he has to play there, they could win 12 games. They won't win the Super Bowl with him, but they'll win a bunch of games because he will just caretake. And in that conference, who's better than them? Maybe Philly. That's it. That's the whole list. Dallas, maybe. But those three teams are clearly the upper crust in a very weak conference.
Yeah. No, to me, that's the part of that one that is intriguing because, I don't know what Purdy's going to be. That might have been more of an aberration as a rookie, and we'll see if he can do it again. And the other guy, there's nothing for me to buy about Trey Lance, but somehow or another, they got Sam Darnold to play decent football last year, and I got to give him credit because I'm not a Sam Darnold guy, but I'm also not big enough to admit when I'm wrong. I admit when I'm wrong, and I think that a Shanahan could prove me wrong with a guy like that. It is possible because, I mean, he's a hell of a coach. I got to give him the props. The Russell Wilson, Sean Payton experiment. Now, so Russell reported yesterday. Do you see this thing working out? Do you see Russell resurrecting his career? Do you see Sean Payton fixing his career?
I think they'll be better. I don't think they'll be good. And I think Wilson will be a very, he's the 20th best quarterback in the league type guy at this point. I watched, if not every throw he made last year, 95% of them. And I get, look, that was a wreck in Denver. Okay, Patrick gets hurt early, and Javonte Williams gets hurt early in the season, and then, Hackett's a mess as a coach. There were a lot of times, though, man, you watch those games, he just couldn't throw the ball. I mean, just flat out would just miss guys, or take ridiculous sacks. Like, I'm not always a big sacker on a quarterback. Like, sometimes the offensive line can be brutal. I mean, go watch the Colts last year. There were a lot of times with him, he had 3-4 seconds to throw the ball and just stood there and just got pounded. I think Payton will make him better. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think he'll do that. But I think the idea that Denver's roster is really good, I think is just so overblown. Who on that team that you look at, or you're like, that guy is a Pro Bowl level player? Surtain's one, Simmons is the other. Both are on defense. Name the third guy. I don't think that guy exists.
No, I get it. I get it. But again, on offense, can he get that magic back? Because that's kind of what was part of Russell's game. Russell was a guy that can move the offense and all that, but he always had the it factor that when you needed a play, the dude was a magician, bro. He just found a way to make a play downfield or whatever. And that, to me, I want that part. I get what you're saying about the team, but individually, will he get his magic back? That's what I'm more intrigued about, because if he doesn't, oh my God, Denver is stuck with this deal, because they will not be able to release him until it is somewhat cap friendly to actually do it. So you're going to have to hang on to him for a couple of more years.
Couple of years. I mean, look, I'll throw this back. First of all, to answer the question, I think he will be better. I don't think he will be what he once was, or even all that close to it. We'll see. Maybe he can prove me wrong. That's my feel. I think he's been sliding for years. I think Denver just signed a horrific extension with him. But to put it back the other way, including the situation, because I think you have to with Denver. If you were looking at the AFC right now, do you think that this upcoming year he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the AFC?
No.
I don't
know. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Like, dude, I'm not a Sam Darnold guy. Like, you aren't a Sam Darnold guy. But
no.
I was just looking at his stats. He threw 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions down the stretch. He was serviceable for Carolina, and they don't have as many weapons as San Francisco does. So again, I'm not Mr. Perfect or anything, even though I'm not a Sam Darnold guy. But I could be wrong. Freaking Shanahan is awesome. And I've seen him do awesome things with a rookie. I've seen him do awesome things with other quarterbacks. Sure. So I got to give it. And Russell, I've seen him do awesome things, and so has Sean Payton. Even though I think he's kind of lost it, because it's what you said. He made a lot of bad decisions in a bad situation last year, and I get it, but you've got to rise above that. If you're a franchise guy, you've got to try to do better, and he couldn't. So I think he's kind of lost it. But again, that's just my opinion. Sean Payton's pretty good. Maybe he can regain that magic. I don't know.
I think they win like 7 games. I think they're third in the AFC West. I think they're better than the Raiders. I don't think they're as good as the Chargers. I don't think they're in the same stratosphere as Kansas City. Like, I think my problem is, like, I remember, now, look, this is one example, but I think back to that Thursday night game against the Colts where people were leaving before overtime. It was so bad. And there was a play where he just, in fact, it was the last play of the game. He just threw the ball into the end zone, and like, it wasn't even close. It was, I don't know if I cut out for it. I apologize, but so I was talking about last year with Denver, the one game that I think exemplified his season. You remember when they played the Colts in that Thursday night game? And it was that game in overtime where people were leaving before overtime. It was so hideous.
Right.
Before the game was into overtime, the fourth quarter, he threw one of the worst picks you'll ever see in your life. Like, one of the worst, like, mind-numbing interceptions. If they get a field goal, they win the game. And he throws a horrible pick in the end zone. And then at the end of the game, just completely screws up the read. You know, receivers are slamming their helmets after the play. That stuff's not Nathaniel Hackett. That's not the receiver. Like, that's him. That's just him. Like, that's the kind of stuff I don't think Sean Payton's fixing. I think he can fix some of it, but there's a reason with the Seahawks that they did not always hand the ball to Russell Wilson and let him throw 40 times. There's a reason that even after Marshawn Lynch retired, they're like, we're going to run the ball. And I think Denver's going to have to do some of that if they're going to be successful.
I'm with you there. Tua had his luau. And so some of his pictures went viral. And Sean, if you can, let's pull up the first picture of Tua talking with a teammate on the field last year. And then we'll pull up the picture after of him taking the snap over the weekend. And as you know, Tua is actually not as well. That's how he got here. But there's Tua talking to his teammate, right? And so you look at him there, right? And so now look at him taking a snap this past week, working out. And he's always had a big lower body, so that's not anything. But look at his upper body and his neck compared to what you just saw. Go back to the other picture again, Sean, so you can see the other one really quickly. So look at the upper body, right? And then look at it now. And so it looks like he's been working on the shoulders, the upper body, the neck, obviously to kind of control a little bit more his body and his neck. And so his head isn't swinging nearly as much. I don't think anybody is shocked at the level of professionalism the guy attacks his job with. We know he has the kind of commitment that, other athletes should have. But your thoughts on that?
The weight room's a wonderful thing for pro athletes. Look, he's certainly, like you said, I don't think anybody doubts his professionalism. I think it's just a matter of, can he just stay on the field? But he's putting himself in the best position to do that. That's all you can ask. He's working out. He's putting in the time. He's putting in the effort. Like, he's doing everything he can. He looks great, and he played really well last year. So at this point, you just need him. You just need to hope that he's healthy. That he just, whatever it is, whether they can do something with the equipment as well, like whatever they've got to do. And look, other guys, by the way, have had these types of issues and overcome them. I always think of a guy by the name of Mark Kelso, who was a safety with the Bills, who had a ton of concussions early in his career, and he started wearing this outer shell. And the helmet looks, it looks goofy in comparison to other helmets, but it saved his career. Like, he played a long, successful career, and he wasn't the only guy, by the way. There was a lineman on the Niners. I think it was Steve Wallace, who wore it. So, look, I'm not saying Tua's got to do that, but there are ways with the equipment to help your situation. And if he's doing that, along with, of course, putting in the time and the effort in the gym, which clearly is, hopefully he can overcome the situation he dealt with last season.
Yeah, man. Kelso was the great Gazoo. That's what I used to call him when he was playing, because obviously if you watch the Flintstones, the great Gazoo. And definitely but he's doing the right things. And, it wasn't about injuries last year. So if you fix this part of it, hopefully you can finally stay away from all of that. All right, what do you got going on Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out, my friend?
Mock draft tomorrow, one and only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. It'll be out tomorrow. I had fun with it. I tried to be as accurate as possible, which, of course, is ridiculous in realizing that probably 6 of the picks are going to be right, but we did what we could. How
sexually excited was your editor when you came up with that? Because that's the only people that get excited about mock drafts and those kind of silly things. The rest of us that are either reporters or writers, because they used to ask me to do that in radio all the time. Hey, come up with your mock for the website. I'm like, bro, this is, but people love this shit. And they click it and they watch it and they read it and they live by it, and editors know it. But you and I, who are put in a constant position of failure by doing this, we hate it. Go ahead. It's true.
I'll leave that alone.
What was one part of that, any part of that, a lie? What I just told you?
No. But it's going out tomorrow, so check it out. And then next week, which is serious, I think everybody will enjoy. It's going to be a feature piece on SI. I did a 40-year retrospective on the 83 NFL draft. And I will tell you, and all the Dolphins fans out there, I talked to Tony Dungy for this story because he was a Steelers assistant coach at the time. And Marino, of course, is from Pittsburgh, went to the University of Pittsburgh. He told me a fascinating story about Marino and the Steelers and everything else. So it's in the story. Read it. Obviously headlined by Marino and Elway. So that'll be out next week, but tomorrow, mock draft.
There you go. And listen, if you hate Adam Schefter or Matt Verderame or Peter Schrager, or when I used to do it, Orlando Alzugaray, or anybody out there, if you hate them, all you got to do is read their mock drafts and you'll have all the ammunition to take shots at them. No matter who it is, because we're all going to be wrong.
Yes, I look forward to being told I'm an idiot by about 25 different fan bases. It'll be fun.
It'll be awesome. All right, Matt. Appreciate you, my brother. We'll catch up next week, man. Thank you.
Take care.
You got it. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Catch his work there at Sports Illustrated. And when we talk about Red Recover, I tell you all the time, the hat, I use the hat every day. I wear it a couple times a day. I wear it in the morning when I wake up, and then I wear it before I go to sleep. And it has helped me grow my hair even more. My hair is fuller now than ever, which is pretty freaking awesome. My yarmulke is getting my human yarmulke is getting more hair, which is a beautiful thing. So I am loving it, man. And you can use it too. We've got the wraps for the dogs when you go to redrecover.com, the big dogs, the small dogs. If your dogs are having issues with their hips, Red light therapy will be a magical source to help them live a much more comfortable life. And if you love your dogs like we do at our house, they're like our kids. You don't want them ever suffering. So we've got the wraps for the dogs, but go to redrecover.com. Use our code Big O. You'll get 10% off there for the doggy wraps. The hats you will not see on the website. You have to go to the contact us part of it and send them an email and tell them, hey, Big O, talk to me about the hat. I'd like to get the hat and all that. And it's at a great price. It's a fraction of what other manufacturers out there sell hats, and I don't even know if they work as good. I can tell you because I see it. My wife is using the hat also to make her hair more full. So it's not just about guys, okay? Women like they love to have full sets of hair, all right? And so if you recently started losing hair, this hat might help you, regrow that hair. Listen, if you've been balding for years and years and years, it might work. It probably won't, it's less likely because it's been dead for 5, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. It's going to be hard, but you never know. If you want to try it, stranger things have happened. And so red light therapy could help you out, man. So go to redrecover.com, check it out. Check out the video blogs too. Very helpful too. redrecover.com.